So you're leading a team discussion and the conversation drifts. People are on tangents. How can you redirect them without hitting them over the head with a hammer? We're going to talk about 6 ways to refocus a team tangent. My name is Alex Lyon, and I'm here to provide professional development tips so you can increase your skills and lead your teams with more excellence. What we're going to talk about today are ways that you can refocus a team tangent. Teams are going to get off topic. That's just part of human nature. And I believe it's the leader's responsibility to refocus. You can let them drift, but they're not going to refocus on their own. You as a leader are in the driver's seat for managing the flow of that discussion. And you don't want to do it in a controlling way. You want to do it in a way that's respectful and polite. And that's a real challenge. So let's look at 6 ways that you can do that. The first way is to tell people ahead of time, right at the start of the meeting, what you're going to accomplish and how long you're going to devote to each item. So let's say you're trying to accomplish 2 or 3 things in that meeting. So you would say, for example, the first thing we're going to get done is make a decision about recruiting. We're going to talk about it for about 15 minutes, and then we're going to have a takeaway decision that we can walk out of here with. That's a very powerful expectation that you set, and then people know how to participate. They know, well, I better not go on a tangent because we do have to do 3 things today. And he said up front, we only have 15 minutes to do that. And people will start to manage their own comments so that they provide something useful. Number 2 is related. Once you've done number 1 and set the expectation, you can then remind the group of the purpose of that chunk of the meeting. So you can say, remember, we're trying to make a decision about recruiting, so let's swerve back in that direction. And that's a little more gentle way to say that we're on a tangent. It helps people refocus. And the only way you can do that, though, is if you set up front in number 1 that you have that purpose and this is what you're trying to accomplish. Number 3 is related again to that first thing. If you already set the time limit and the expectations for the things you're going to discuss, then you can provide a verbal timer for what people are talking about. So you can say, if you're off on a tangent, for example, or someone's off on a tangent, you say, okay, let's spend about 2 more minutes on this and then get back to making a decision about recruiting because we're a little off topic. So you don't cut people off. You actually give them a little room. You say, let's spend about 2 more minutes and then come back. I saw a guy at an offsite do this numerous times. There was someone in the group who kept getting on tangents, and he wasn't the only one, but it seemed like he was the one that was sparking people to get on tangents. And the team leader would be very patient, and he would say it with kindness and all that. But he would say, let's spend just about 2 or 3 more minutes and then get back to the issue we're trying to discuss today. And that was a great way to let them finish, but then get back. You can also not just give the time. You don't have to say 2 minutes. You can say, we're going to give Sarah the last word on this, and then we have to get back to what we were planning about, talking about earlier. And there you go. You've already given them that room to speak, but you signaled that you're going to be swerving back into the main part of the discussion where you're trying to make that decision. The next way is to summarize and clarify what has been said so far. And this is a super powerful tool. In fact, if I had to just give you one leadership skill out of this whole list that was the most important, it's this one. So the conversation's flowing along, and maybe you're on some tangents, there's been a lot said already. At some point, you as the leader of that discussion really need to jump in and crystallize and synthesize what's been said so far. So you have to listen for these themes as you're listening. Maybe there's 2 or 3 dominant conversations happening about this topic, and then you cinch it together for people. So you'd say, it sounds like what we're saying is really 2 things. First of all, we definitely have to increase our efforts in recruiting. Secondly, we need to find money to do that. And then you've given a concrete platform for the group to stand on and move forward in the discussion. High-level leaders, executive-level leaders, this is something that they develop over years. And it's something that takes a lot of practice. It changes the way you listen to a conversation. It changes the way you concisely speak into the flow of a conversation to reorient people. And it's a skill that I highly recommend you develop every chance you get. Even if you're at a meeting where you're just a participant and you're not leading that discussion, listen for those themes and in your head, synthesize and crystallize what you hear so far. The 5th tip is to honor what people are saying if it's a tangent and offer to come back to it later. So you would say something along the lines of, Sarah, I hear what you're saying. Let's make another time to discuss this. and we'll get back to it. Or if there's still time at the end of the meeting, let's swerve back to that later. And that way you don't really cut the person off. You're saying, hey, let's schedule this. And by the way, I don't think you should just say this as a dismissive comment. I mean, really do make time for it. Chances are, if people in your team are talking about something they care about, then it is important, and it should be important to you. And so when you're saying, let's make some time for this at the next meeting or at the end of this meeting, you should get back to that and honor your word. You don't want to be dismissive. And the sixth one is a little sneaky, and I've seen skilled leaders do it. And that is, let's say person A is on a tangent, but you know that person B usually is on point and they're trying to get in the discussion. So what you would do is you would let that person, the first person, finish their talking turn. You say, okay, thank you. Charlie, you were trying to get in earlier. What did you have to say about, and then spell out the priority you're talking about. So you know that this is your go-to person for getting back on track, and you call on them, and you have to be a little subtle about this. You don't always want to use that trick, but every once in a while, if things are off on a tangent, you can pull people back in by calling on someone and asking them, like, you've got some thoughts on this, Michelle, why don't you tell us what your thinking is right now? And that's a way to bring the discussion back around. Now, I said 6 in the title, but I'm gonna give you one bonus one. It's not for everybody. You can use humor. If it's part of your personality, it's part of who you are, and it's natural, you can be a little funny. You can say, hey, let's reel it back in. You know, I had a group discussion leader who we would get on tangents all the time, and he would pretend he was reeling in a fish. He'd say, whoa, we're off. We gotta reel it in. Reel in the discussion, people. And he used that now and again, and it was funny. It made us laugh. And since we're laughing at ourselves, we're not taking it too personally. And that's the magic of using a little bit of humor. But again, not everybody can pull off humor. Not everybody feels funny or is in a jokey mood. But if that's your style, then you can do that. So leading team discussions is an art and a skill. I do believe, though, that you can get better at it with practice. And I encourage you to use any one of these or more than one of these at your very next opportunity, because it's a skill that needs continued development and continued refinement just to get better and better at it, because people are always going to be on tangents, and the people in the group that are there with you want you as the leader to bring it back together. And that's one of the reasons why I created this channel, to help rising leaders, people like you, increase your skills to lead your teams with more excellence. If you're interested in ongoing content and this kind of topic, then I encourage you to click the subscribe button, post a comment below. We'll start a discussion and get some interesting topics going here on the channel. So thanks, God bless, and I hope you get to use the tips here immediately.